Alright, so today we got the 2024 kind of year in review video, and these are going to be the 2024 UFC awards. These are going to be most of the best moments of 2024, which has honestly been an amazing year in the UFC. We've seen some of the best cards, UFC 298, UFC 299, UFC 300, UFC 308. We saw the Sphere, and a bunch of great fights, good fight nights, other good pay-per-views along the way. So let's get right into it. These are going to be my 2024 UFC awards. So let's get right into it with the big one. And this is Fighter of the Year. I wanted to break this up into two parts. We're going to have Fighter of the Year champions only and Fighter of the Year contenders only. So we're going to start with the champions, and you guys see who's there on the screen. Alex Pereira. Now, obviously the big two for this year, Pereira and Ilia Topuria. Earlier in the year, pretty much everybody was leaning Pereira, but after UFC 308, I've seen almost everybody leaning towards Topuria, and I understand that, but I can have my own values when it comes to fighting. What I value more than anything in a fighter is activity, right? And 2 to 3, from 2 fights to 3 fights may not seem like that massive of a leap, but played out over 3 years, that's going to be 9 fights versus 6 fights. A year after that, it's going to be 12 fights versus 8 fights, and it just makes a big difference, right? Plus, added onto that, taking fights like Alex Pereira did on short notice, stepping up, taking fights that may not be an ideal situation for him. That's why I am favoring Alex Pereira in this one over Ilia Topuria, who does have arguably two of the best wins ever for any fighter. Knocked out Alexander Volkanovski, and we are going to talk about that fight more later. Knocked out Max Holloway, never been done before. Full credit to Ilia Topuria. I'm not leaving him off here because I don't like him, because I don't think he had an amazing year. I think most years he would win this. It's just that I think what Alex Pereira has done this year is kind of overlooked in a way, even though people always give him credit, just because this is sort of what we've come to expect from Alex Pereira. When we look back at champions in the modern era, who else has stepped in on short notice? What was it, all 3 fights stepped in on short notice against maybe not the same quality of guys as a Volkanovski or Max Holloway, but still very high-level, dangerous guys. Jamal Hill, Yuri Prochazka, Khalil Roundtree, any one of those guys can knock out anybody on any given night, right? And Pereira stepped up, knocked out all 3 of them in super fun, massive fights. He looked good in all of them. That's not to say Ilia Topuria didn't look amazing in his fights too, because he did. But I'm going to lean Pereira here just because I'm valuing that willingness to step up. I'm valuing that activity. 3 fights is always going to be better than 2 fights in my eyes, even if those 2 fights are objectively better. It's just adding a whole nother fight in there makes it an easy choice for me. I'm going Pereira. Alright, and then let's get to our contender. There were a few options. I was between Prates, obviously 4 wins as well. Buckley, 4 wins. There were some other guys in there, but those were my big 2. Gene Silva could have got a mention in there too. Shavkat, even though he only won 1 fight, so maybe not Shavkat, but we're going with Joaquin Buckley. Now, Joaquin Buckley has 4 wins in 2024, which is impressive in itself, but even more so because of the names he was fighting, the way he's looked, and the results. 3 of those were TKOs against Vicente Luque, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and Colby Covington, guys that are notoriously hard to finish, guys that have been top level for a long time, and these were not fluke finishes. This guy looked amazing in those fights, especially against Colby. I think he was on his way to a 3rd or 4th round TKO, or just ground and pound TKO, or maybe even out cold, because he looks to be in insane shape, insane power. He's throwing really great techniques. He looks quick. He looks technical. Uppercuts look super dangerous. Big overhands, super dangerous. I was super impressed at the way he was striking with Wonderboy Thompson. Like I said in a previous video, he didn't just catch him out of nowhere. He set that up, right? Even if he wasn't getting the better of every exchange, he was working his way towards that KO that he eventually got. And I do believe that he was able to get exactly what he had been looking at. This is a guy that does a lot of film study. This is a guy that really approaches fights with a plan, right? So 4 wins in 1 year, 3 of those TKOs. The one fight that he won by decision was against Nursultan Ruziboev, which is another really, really good unranked guy in the welterweight division. I'm not sure he may actually be ranked, but that's a ridiculously well-rounded guy, dangerous guy. Joaquin Buckley took him on no problem. It was competitive, but Joaquin Buckley was clearly the better fighter here. He's deserves a #1 contender fight after that, right? He should be next in line if he wins his next fight after Shavkat for the title. Maybe he'll fight Shavkat, maybe he'll fight Bilal. Regardless, this is a guy that went for me from a guy that's not that impressive, from a guy that was kind of living off his highlight KO over Impa Konsanganai, to a guy that's a undoubted top contender, super exciting guy, a guy that could genuinely be the best welterweight there is at this point, one of the most skilled welterweights ever, possibly. So yeah, super exciting guy. I'm excited to see him next year. I think he had the best year of any contender in 2024. All right, moving on to the Rookie of the Year. Now, this is something I don't see done a lot. This is the guy who made a debut this year. And then this is how Carlos Prates is still going to get credit. He's going to be my Rookie of the Year. Now, he made his Contender Series debut last year, but he made his official full UFC debut this year. And similar to Joaquin Buckley, 4 wins, 4 by TKO. I believe Trevin Giles, he made his debut against, knocked him out, nasty straight left. After that, he took on Charles Radke, who's actually a really good fighter for an unranked guy. Finished him with nasty knees to the body. Took on Neil Magny recently, finished him. Finished Li Jingliang at UFC 305 with a nasty hook. Pieced him up, first guy to ever finish Li Jingliang, and he put him out cold. Now, this is a guy that the UFC were rumored to have put him up against. They had plans for him against Jack Della Maddalena or Leon Edwards or even Shavkat, I'm not sure. But they were teasing that they were trying to give him a massive, massive matchup in his first year in the UFC, which is almost unprecedented other than guys like Alex Pereira. Obviously, we saw Kaya Sakura get a title shot straight away. But this is ridiculous how much he's proven himself within 1 year in the promotion. He's already one of the most liked guys by hardcore fans. He looks amazing in the striking. He looks nearly unbeatable. 4 wins, 4 first or second round TKOs. Carlos Prates looks amazing. Amazing rookie year. Alright, moving on, we've got KO of the year. And I know it's kind of controversial not to pick the Max Holloway on Justin Gaethje knockout. And that was an amazing knockout. But we've seen Justin Gaethje hit before, right? We've never seen him knocked out cold like that, as far as I can remember. At least not from a punch, right? And cold, like out slumped badly. But even more impressive, in my opinion, is Ilia Topuria's KO of Volkanovski. Now, we've never seen Volkanovski go out cold, like nasty, dead-looking cold. We saw Islam KO him recently, and that was nasty. But that was kind of a discombobulated, goes down, gets finished with ground and pound type of KO. This was a one-shot, put the lights out, on the ground for a minute type of KO from Ilia Topuria. Now, I remember watching this. I was at Buffalo Wild Wings with some friends, and I'm a big Volk fan. I'm a big Ilia fan as well. But when that KO happened, God, I could barely breathe. I remember I was just staring at the TV screen, couldn't talk for a good few seconds. It's probably one of the most shocked I've ever been at a KO, and it's not because I wasn't aware that it was a possibility. In fact, I probably thought that could happen. I thought it was likely, but just the way that I felt seeing that KO, I've never felt that in combat sports. It was ridiculous. I couldn't even tell if I was happy or sad. So I'm going with this for my KO of the year, Ilia Topuria over Alexander Volkanovski. And a lot of that is just because of, like, the weight behind it, right? Ilia Topuria unseating the dominant featherweight champion in such a brutal, such a definitive way, right? After that KO, even though Volk was so amazing at featherweight for so long, hardly anybody gives him any chance of beating Ilia in a rematch, to the point where people say, no, we don't want to see that, even though we all love to watch Volkanovski fight, and we'd all love to see him get another title shot. Just that memory of him getting slumped out by Ilia makes it seem impossible for him to win that. That's the type of KO that changed both of their careers, and because of that, this is my KO of the year. Alright, and then I want to show some love to Max Holloway. Performance of the year, I am going to give to his KO performance over Justin Gaethje. Now, the reason I'm choosing this for performance of the year rather than KO of the year is because, for me, it was the moment of the KO that makes it so beloved. But I think that moment of the KO contributes more to the fight as a whole, or the performance as a whole rather, than it does to just the KO, if you understand what I mean. I believe that it was the perfect way to wrap up what was an amazing, technical, powerful performance over Justin Gaethje by wrapping it up and showing, yeah, I can put him out cold as well as outstriking him for 5 rounds, which you may hear outstriking Justin Gaethje, and yeah, it's good, but you may think, it's Justin Gaethje. You know, Lucas Tracy calls him Rufus, says he's a big dumb guy swinging hooks, and obviously that's a bit of a joke because that's not completely true. We've seen that recently. Justin Gaethje against Rafael Fiziev looked more reserved, more conservative, more technical, better than usual, right? Still landing his big shots, but not getting landed on as much. We saw that against Dustin Poirier. Most people were picking Dustin Poirier to go out in there and outbox Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje looks better, slicker, more technical, and then finishes him with a head kick. And that's a Poirier that we know was not washed at the time, because he went out there, beat up on Benoit Saint Denis, gave Islam a tough fight, and that was 2 fights after he was flatline KO'd by Justin Gaethje. So coming off those 2 great wins, this is the Justin Gaethje that Max Holloway put on a 5-round clinic against and then slumped out cold with the last punch of the fight, which is just ridiculous, because until then, when have we ever seen Justin Gaethje been just schooled for 5 rounds? We've never seen that. And this was against a guy that when the fight was made, people, including myself, thought was going to get mauled by Justin Gaethje because of the size difference. We knew there would probably be a speed and skill difference, but we didn't think that it would be enough to make up for the gap in size, what we perceived of power. Max Holloway proved that the skill is on another level, speed on another level, and even that the power is there to completely slump out cold this guy that has a pretty good chin. So this is why I'm giving Max Holloway's performance at UFC 300 over Justin Gaethje the 2024 Performance of the Year award. Alright, and then let's move on to the last one. I was considering going with the Esteban Ribovic versus Daniel Zellhuber because I think that was an amazing one too, but I think that one's a little bit overhyped because of the Sphere card, right? So I'm going to go with Mateusz Rebecki versus Miktabek Orolbai. Now, this was probably my favorite fight of the year. Well, yeah, it was my favorite fight of the year. That's why I'm picking it for 2024 UFC Fight of the Year. And this fight had everything, right? Both guys with amazing chins. Both super powerful guys, super tough guys. It's kind of funny because obviously people say about Miktabek Orolbai that he's like an ancient human. Mateusz Rebecki obviously got some Neanderthal genes. I mean, a lot of European guys do. I've got a little bit of Neanderthal genes. But yeah, you've got that extra bones, I believe, in the back of your skull. You've got a thicker neck. You've got your cranial ridges. And then we've got a Mongol horde right here. We've got Miktabek Orolbai. He looks like the Iceman. What's that guy's name? Ollie the Iceman or whatever, that 40,000-year-old guy they discovered. Just a ridiculous fight. Ridiculous toughness showed from both of these guys. I believe it was Orolbai that ended up with a nasty cut. So for the last round and a half of the fight, we were fighting in blood. These guys were scrapping it out on the feet. These guys were wrestling, scrambling. This was just an all-around show of the best of MMA with 2 guys that are athletic, powerful, tough, but also technical. They can show that they can grapple. They can exchange on the feet with technique, even after being rocked, being tired, being cut open. And yeah, this was my favorite fight of the year. An amazing one. Let you guys let me know in the comments who was your fighter of the year, what was your performance of the year, your KO of the year, your fight of the year. I'm excited to go back, look through all of that stuff, relive it, rewatch it. It's been an amazing year for the UFC. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm planning to come out with a worst of the year, similar to this, but the opposite, so that should be fun. Yeah, have a nice day.